Hitman is one of the top-tier stealth franchises, but its popularity in the collective consciousness seems to have waned in recent years. Developer and publisher IO Interactive is looking to rectify that with Hitman 3, which seeks to bring all recent entries under the same umbrella. If you already liked Hitman, number 3 is more of what you already love and you'll have a great time, but if Hitman was never really your jam, then I doubt this one will convince you because it's more of the same. Thanks to Square Enix sending me a review code, I've spent the past few days playing Hitman 3 on my PC, and it is worth pointing out at the beginning that the game is a timed exclusive to the Epic Games Store, so do with that what you will. In simple terms, Hitman is a stealth game all about assassinating specific targets. How you do that is completely up to you and usually involves acquiring various disguises from NPCs in the environment and hiding in plain sight. You have dozens of ways to kill a target, ranging from the simple but uneventful headshot, the classic strangling with a fiber wire, or mission-specific kills like crushing them with a grate presser at a vineyard. This level of player creativity is rarely found in modern games, and Hitman actively rewards it and encourages multiple playthroughs of different routes and strategies. Each environment is brilliantly designed with several different pathways and approaches to get to the target. Doors are locked and need specific keys to access, rooms are off limits unless you're wearing the appropriate disguise, overheard conversations and text documents fill you in on new ways to kill. All of this shapes how you handle the run and makes for meaningful player choices and spontaneity. Choice in video games is often conflated with actions influencing the narrative, but that's not the case here, though it's actually more meaningful. You have full control over how to kill a target on every run, meaning that each time will be different in large and small ways, and it's this level of choice that often gets foregone in favour of more linear, narrative-focused experiences. The previous Hitman game I spent the most time with was Hitman Absolution, and it was criticised for exactly that, focusing too much on the narrative and not giving enough player creativity. At the time I still thought that was a pretty decent game, but this is so much better and so much more compelling in terms of player agency. For example, to kill one target, I discovered that he was a scientist doing experiments on people, so I snuck inside as a guard, then disguised myself as his next subject. The experiment involved a consciousness transfer machine that would allow him to control people, and if I resisted enough, they would have to increase the power, which would eventually kill him. The problem was, one of the other scientists wasn't having it and kept pulling the plug before we could finish the job. Solution: take her out of the equation too. But then when he came back after a brief rest, we could crank that shit right up and bingo!
Brains tend to scrambled egg.
I'm not scared. I could...
Both targets down, good.
The game didn't ever tell me to do that, it had nothing to do with the story, I chose to experiment and it paid off. The situation could have played out differently if I didn't knock out the other scientist, or if I took her out earlier, and that's just stuff specific to this method of dispatch. I had plenty of other opportunities to kill him in different ways, but it's always fun to look for the more obscure methods. Another kill involved stalking a guy through his penthouse apartment and disguising myself as a member of staff. There are several types of poison in the game, each with different effects that can be applied to different foods and drinks, and the one I used made him violently sick. So when he ran to the bathroom to sick up his guts, I, ever so graciously, drowned him in the vomit-filled toilet, of course.
Carl Ingram finally gets what he deserves. Good riddance.
Hitman 3 does have a narrative, but as a relative outsider to the series, it didn't mean much to me and mainly serves as a justification for the player to be in any given location. How you actually kill the target doesn't matter at all to the narrative, so you're free to be a brutal and violent murderer or an unseen predator. The story is mainly told through cutscenes bookending each level, but it's not really that much to sink your teeth into. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and it probably will feel more impactful for anyone who's been in it since the beginning, but it didn't really do anything for me. Basically, the story so far is you play as Agent 47, a hitman for a secret organization. After some betrayals, revelations, and memory-wiping shenanigans, Agent 47 is now reunited with a long-lost friend, Lucas Gray. With this friend and your handler called Diana, you work to dissolve a clandestine Illuminati-esque organization that pulls the world strings from behind the scenes. Naturally, 47's only response is,
"You sons of bitches! What's the job?"
Agent 47 has a mark and he will eliminate them with laser focus and surgical precision. The star of the show though is absolutely the gameplay, and you don't even need to watch the story cutscenes if you don't want to. It's not really about why you're killing anyone unlucky enough to be the mark, it's just about killing them in unique and hilarious ways. The missions can be played and replayed in any order, so if you want to go straight to the last location and kill the final target, you can. You can even find shortcuts hidden in the levels which will remain open for all future playthroughs, which will be essential for those looking to beat the clock. The idea of replayability is fostered throughout the whole game, as once a level has been completed, you are rewarded with different starting equipment and spawn locations. After clearing a level in an old British mansion, mansion, I then had the option to start off as one of the gardeners rather than having to sneak through the front gate again. This really incentivizes multiple playthroughs, and each stage has various challenges to finish the level in specific ways. Disguise yourself as kitchen staff, hack the computer terminal, melt a guy's brain with some crazy consciousness device. All in a day's work for Agent 47.
This is Sparta!
Hitman 3 is the final entry in what the devs call the World of Assassination Trilogy. The key selling point to series fans for this entry is that if you own the previous 2 games, you can access their levels within Hitman 3. That's an awesome prospect that makes Hitman 3 the ultimate Hitman experience if you already own those games. However, if you're coming at this for the first time, Hitman 3 on its own may feel a bit bare bones. Due to the focus on replayability and synchronizing with the previous games, this game only has a handful of levels to play through, so if you're the kind of person who only plays things once, you may feel shortchanged. Adding Hitman 1 and 2's levels to the mix does massively bolster the available locations, but you already have to own both of those games to do so. On PC, if you pre-ordered or buy within the first 10 days of launch, you'll get Hitman 1's content in Hitman 3 absolutely for free. However, getting Hitman 2's locations in the game is a bit more of an issue on PC, and for more on that you can watch this video, but the gist of it is Hitman 2 isn't available on the Epic Games Store, seemingly due to some publisher disagreements, and if you already own it on Steam, the content won't be shared. Developer IO Interactive has guaranteed that you won't need to buy it again, but that solution seems to have an indefinite timeline. This is the first game I've reviewed on PC, and on my system it runs absolutely beautifully. After Cyberpunk struggled to even get above 60 FPS consistently, it's been a total joy to run Hitman 3 at double that. One mission sees Agent 47 on a job in China, and the neon lighting with the pouring rain is my neo-noir wet dream. There are a few minor technical issues like objects clipping or floating, repeated dialogue lines, and some frankly shocking AI behavior, but nothing that's too severe and certainly not game-breaking. On one mission in Argentina, there was a fabulous sunset which looked gorgeous, but it did tank the frame rate while I was looking at it. Arguably my biggest frustration with Hitman as a franchise is nothing to do with the game itself, it's just because of me. I'm far too much of a perfectionist when I play stealth games, so if things go wrong, I will immediately reload the save and do things right.
Shame! Shame! Shame!
Fortunately, Hitman 3 gives you a bunch of save slots so you can save scum multiple times in the same level to your heart's content. The gameplay of this entry isn't a significant upgrade from any of the previous titles, so if you already love that, this is more of what you love, but if you're looking for a bit more variation, you may be disappointed. That really wasn't much of an issue for me since the level design and wealth of options were constantly compelling, but some of the fundamentals continued to bug me, namely NPC behavior. Wearing a pair of glasses instantly turns Agent 47 into Clark Kent, which has always been a comical series tradition, but the NPCs are just so blind and deaf. So long as they're not looking directly at you, you can pretty much do whatever you want. On the vineyard stage I mentioned earlier, I lured a target to me by blowing up some fermentation tanks, which I learned were faulty through some excellent environmental storytelling. When they exploded, they spilled wine everywhere, which brought the target out to investigate. I then discovered that the wine on the floor could be electrified to kill the target, which was awesome because I discovered it by myself without the game telling me. However, when I came through there later with a target and a tour guide, no one batted an eye that they were ankle deep in red wine. This kind of inconsistency is annoying and immersion breaking, as these people were literally wine experts but couldn't care less that their feet were in gallons of it. But to be fair, it did make it that much more satisfying to squish the pretentious dumb bitch.
So, this is what you
That's gotta hurt.
The game does add the additional obstacle of certain NPCs seeing through your disguise, which does make things more interesting, but they're all still stupid with really bad vision cones and have very basic routines which can be avoided. There are certain areas which require you to get frisked. These areas not only require the right disguise to access, but depending on your disguise, certain items are illegal. If you're loaded up with guns and grenades while dressed as a chef, you may raise a few eyebrows, but if you're part of the security team, you could be more armed than Predator and you're good to go. If things do go wrong and you get spotted, you can try to shoot your way out, but it's likely you'll die faster than Agent 47 lost all his hair, and the shooting is a bit meh. Fortunately, I barely ever used guns and tried to kill targets using mission stories. These are kind of side quests within missions where you can learn extra information about the targets, which can then be used against them or uncover new bizarre ways to kill them. In the mission in the British mansion, my target faked her own death and was having a phony funeral. By listening to NPC conversations and exploring the environment, I learned that she was going to meet with an undertaker to discuss the ceremony. So I knocked him out, took his outfit, buried her alive in her own grave, all the while her bodyguard pottered about failing at his job.
That's Madame Carlyle taken care of.
For existing Hitman fans, Hitman 3 is the complete package and brings together all 3 games of the World of Assassination trilogy to make the ultimate Hitman experience. Infiltration and assassination mechanics are familiar and don't upset the status quo, but continues that winning formula. If you're a newcomer to the series, the amount of content in Hitman 3 on its own without the other 2 games may not be satisfying, especially if you're not one for replaying old levels. But if you do own the previous titles, or snag this one quickly enough on PC, you'll have the definitive modern Hitman game that gives you more of what the series is best at. Multi-layered and open level design makes encounters more engaging and experimentation is always rewarded. This entry to the franchise is more of the same, and if this game doesn't convince you to like Hitman, then nothing will, but if you're already on that train, then you'll definitely have a great ride. In the absence of games like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear, and since Assassin's Creed ditched stealth years ago, having a big budget game dedicated entirely to stealth is hugely refreshing and something I hope for every year. Hitman 3 really scratched that itch, and during this quiet part of the release schedule, I plan to work through all Hitman 1 and 2 stages. And even then, the game gives you so many options and fully enables your creativity, I could spend all year finding new ways to butcher unsuspecting victims. Anyway, that's it for my thoughts on Hitman 3. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Yeah, you know what I'm gonna say. Anyway, let's just wrap this up. Go over to patreon.com/prettygoodgaming to support the content we create. I've been Henry Cooper, this has been Pretty Good Gaming. I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.